Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we have this lovely V-neck lacy top. It's really easy to make. You just need a weight 2 yarn, a 4.5mm hook and a 6mm hook. In this tutorial I make a size small. For all other sizes you can check out my blog at crochetwithcarrie.com. And the yarn I used was kindly gifted to me by Hobie. It's their Friends Wheel. This is a sport or a weight 2 yarn. This yarn is 55% cotton and 45% acrylic, and the shade I used was Berry Smoothie. You can find all the links down below if you want to go and get some for yourself. This top is worked from the top down, and we're going to start off with our left front, and we're going to chain 20 using our 4.5mm hook. Next we're going to make a shell stitch into the second chain from the hook. So to make that shell stitch you're going to make a single crochet and 2 double crochets into that same stitch. Then you're going to skip 2 chains and then into the next make another shell stitch. So to make that shell stitch you're going to make 1 single crochet and 2 double crochets into that same stitch. And you're going to repeat that pattern. You're going to skip the next 2 chains and then make a shell stitch into the next, and you're going to repeat that across until 3 stitches remain. So here we are at the end of the row and we have 3 stitches left. So you're going to skip the next 2 chains and then into that last chain make 1 single crochet. Now for row 2 until row 16 we're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn our work. Into that very first stitch make a shell stitch. So again, to make that shell stitch make 1 single crochet and 2 double crochets into that same stitch. Then we're going to skip the next 2 double crochets and then into the next single crochet make a shell stitch. And you're going to repeat that across. You're going to skip the next 2 double crochets and into that next single crochet make a shell stitch. And you're going to repeat that all the way across until 3 stitches remain. So here we are towards the end of the row and you should have 3 stitches left. So you're going to skip the next 2 double crochets and into that last stitch make 1 single crochet. So now you're just going to go ahead and repeat that row until the end of row 16. So now you should have 16 rows completed, and next we're going to start shaping our neckline. So we're going to chain 1 and then turn our work, and we're going to work in pattern like we have all the way across until 3 stitches remain, and at the end of this row we're going to start increasing. So go ahead and work your pattern. And here we are at the end of the row, and we have 3 stitches left. Usually at the end of a row we do place 1 single crochet, but for the end of this row we're going to make a shell stitch. So into that last stitch make 1 single crochet and 2 double crochets. Then we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. Into that very first stitch make a shell stitch. Then you're going to skip the next double crochet, and then into the next single crochet make a shell stitch. Then skip the next 2 double crochets, and into the next single crochet make a shell stitch. And you're going to repeat that all the way across, and when you reach the end of this row you're going to end with 1 single crochet. So here we are at the end of the row. We have 3 stitches left, so we're going to skip the next 2 double crochets, and then into that last single crochet place 1 single crochet. So we're going to go ahead and repeat those 2 rows over and over again until we have 37 stitches. So again, for the next row, chain 1, into that very first stitch make a shell stitch. Skip the next 2 double crochets and make a shell stitch into the next single crochet, and you're going to repeat that all the way across, placing a shell stitch into that very last stitch. So again, here we are at the end of the row. We have 3 stitches left, so into that very last stitch make a shell stitch. And then for the next row, chain 1, turn your work, make a shell stitch into that very first stitch, skip the next double crochet, and then make a shell stitch into the next single crochet. Then skip the next 2 double crochets and then shell stitch into the next single crochet. And you're going to repeat that all the way across, and you're going to end the row with a single crochet. And you're going to go ahead and repeat those 2 rows over and over again until you have 37 stitches and you've ended on a non-increase row. Then you're going to fasten off and repeat this entire process for the right front side. But when you have your right front side finished, you're not going to fasten off. So here I've just finished my right front side and I haven't fastened off. So what we're going to do next is we're going to start joining these 2 pieces together. So continuing on from where you are now, we're going to chain 1 and then turn our work. We're going to shell stitch into that very first stitch. Skip the next 2 stitches and then make a shell stitch into the next single crochet, and you're going to repeat that all the way across until 3 stitches remain. So here we have 3 stitches remaining. So we're going to insert our hook into that last stitch. Then we're going to grab our other side and we're going to insert our hook into that very end single crochet, just like so. And then we are going to make a single crochet, just like so. And then into that same space we're going to make 2 double crochets. Make sure your hook is going through both sides, and by doing so you will connect both pieces together. Then you are going to skip the next 2 double crochets, and into that next single crochet you're going to make a shell, and you're going to repeat that all the way across until 3 stitches remain. And here we are at the end of the row, and we are going to make 1 single crochet into that last stitch. And then we're going to chain 1, turn our work, and then into that very first stitch we're going to make a shell stitch. Then skip the next 2 double crochets, and into that next single crochet make a shell stitch, and you're going to repeat that all the way across, ending the row with 1 single crochet. And then you're going to go ahead and repeat that row over and over again until you're happy with the length of your top, just keeping in mind that later we're going to be adding a bottom edge that's about 2 inches long. So once you're happy with your length, you're just going to go and fasten off, and we are going to start working on the back panel. So after a few rows, your front panel should look like this. and you're going to go ahead and fasten off, and we're going to start working on the back panel. The back panel is the same pattern as the front panel. The only difference is you're going to start off with a foundation chain of 74, and then you're going to work in pattern until your back panel is the same length as your front panel. Next, you're going to lay your back panel on a flat surface. Make sure that the last row you completed is towards the bottom. And then we are going to place the front panel directly on top, and you're going to attach your yarn to the bottom edge corner, and you're going to either slip stitch or single crochet all the way up, leaving a gap of about 6.5 inches. And then you're going to repeat the same thing on the other side. You're going to attach your yarn to the bottom corner, and you're going to slip stitch or single crochet all the way up, leaving a gap of about 6.5 inches. Then you're going to do the same thing with each of your shoulders. You're going to either slip stitch or single crochet across both shoulders. For the sleeves, we're going to change to our 6mm hook, and we're going to attach our yarn to the underarm, just right here where the side seam is. And then we're going to insert our hook, pull our yarn through, chain 1, and then we're going to make a shell stitch into that same space. So again, to make that shell stitch, make 1 single crochet and then 2 double crochets. Now, to make the rest of our shell stitches, we're just going to look a little closer here, and you will notice around the edge of the armhole you will find that it's like the eye of the previous shells from the body of the top. We're going to be working into the eye of those stitches. So into that next eye of the shell, you're going to make a shell stitch, and you're going to repeat that all the way around your armhole, working into the eye of every shell stitch all the way around. So now I've worked all the way around the armhole. We're going to work in continuous rounds. So you're going to locate the very first single crochet you made, and into that stitch you're just going to make a shell stitch. And I would recommend to place a stitch marker into that very first stitch so that you know the beginning of every round from now on. And then again you're going to skip the next 2 double crochets and then make a shell stitch into the next single crochet. And you're going to continue in continuous rounds for a total of 6 rounds. If you want to add more rounds, please feel free to do. And then once you've finished your 6 rounds, you're going to slip stitch into that very first single crochet. And then you're going to fasten off and you're going to repeat the same process for your second sleeve. For the bottom edge, we're still going to use our 6mm hook, and you're going to locate any single crochet. It really doesn't matter which single crochet it is. And then you're going to attach your yarn. And then you're going to insert your hook, pull your yarn through, and then chain 1. Into that same stitch, you're going to make a shell stitch. Then you're going to skip the next 2 double crochets and then make a shell stitch into the next single crochet. And you're going to work in continuous rounds, just like you did for the sleeves, for a total of 6 rounds. Add more rounds if you want, and then you're just going to fasten off. Now next we're going to tidy up our neckline, and we're going to switch back to our 4.5 hook, and we're going to attach our yarn to the top of the neck, just where the shoulder seam is, and we're going to work in single crochet. When you reach the V part of the top, we're going to single crochet 2 together. And then we're going to continue with single crochet all the way around the neckline until you reach that very first single crochet. Once you reach your first single crochet again, you're going to slip stitch. So here I've worked single crochets all the way around, and I'm slip stitching into that very first single crochet. And then I'm going to chain 1, and now we're going to work our crab stitch, or I think it's called reverse single crochet. So to work that, you're just basically going to be working single crochets but backwards. So you're going to work backwards and insert your hook into that next stitch, pull your yarn through, then yarn over and pull through 2 loops. And you're going to continue with your crab stitch all the way around your neckline, and then once you've worked all the way around your neckline, you're going to slip stitch into the very first stitch, and then you're just going to fasten off. And that's your top finished. All you've left to do now is just weave in all your ends and you're good to go. If you liked this tutorial, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe. Don't forget the free written pattern is on my blog, crochetwithcarrie.com. So until next time, take care.